Hello and welcome to the very first actual live web, actual live stream of Sustenance and Covering. And today we are going to be telling a story about my health. If somebody out there has something in particular that they want to ask me about, feel free at any time. I've got this new Bible code series I'm working on. If you want to ask any questions about that I can reveal at this time. I've also posted a few debunking flat earth videos based on the fact that every time I post a video about the Bible, the flat earthers seem to want to attack everything I say, so I felt like I needed to do that first. But for right now, until somebody sends me a question, I'll tell you what's recently happened to me with my health. Now, I've got really bad arthritis. I've had that all my life. I've always had problems with all my joints, even when I was little, so it's one of them things that as you get older, that stuff just gets worse, but there's nothing that can be done about it, and in fact, there's no way to even detect it. I've had every x-ray, MRI, CAT scans, ultrasounds, everything on all my joints over and over again. Every time I ask a doctor about it, they want to redo the whole thing, and so last time I was at the doctor, I told them that, and they said, well, let's send you in for some tests. I said, no, we ain't going to do that again, because it's not anything different than it's ever been. It's just a little bit worse. And so, of course, the solution is just painkiller drugs or whatever, anti-inflammatories, and that stuff doesn't seem to help me any, and I don't want to destroy my liver just so that my knuckles don't hurt. Okay, but anyway, I've been trying to get into the VA for a year and a month. I've been in the VA system for many years, but for the last year and a month, I've been trying to make appointments because my doctor said that he was going to try to get me back on my disability, which was taken away from me. When I got out of the Navy, when I got in the Navy, within a short amount of time, I was injured to a point where they wanted to throw me out of the Navy, but they said I could stay if I signed some papers acknowledging my permanent injury and the fact that I was never going to get better, ever. For the rest of my life, I would never get better. And so that's in my record. And because of it, after 15 years of fighting the VA, I actually got on disability. And a year later, they sent me a letter saying, congratulations, you are cured of the incurable illness you have had for the last 35 years. And so I told my doctor that, and he said, well, we're going to do an MRI again. So I went to the MRI, and then after the MRI, I started calling back. I need to see my doctor about the results of my MRI. I want to get the ball rolling on my disability case. Well, long story short, the VA is like losing doctors pretty quick, so there's not enough to go around. And after 1 year and 1 month of fighting them, I finally got in. And I got to see a TV doctor. So I went into a room, they turned on a computer, there was a doctor, I think in Maryland, and they were sitting on their end talking to me while I'm sitting here in Mississippi. And I told her the whole story, and she's like, well, according to the VA, we're not allowed to say anything about any disabilities unless it's like you're missing all your arms and legs or something. If you've got a back injury or knee injury or something like that, that has to be handled by attorneys. So, which is, she wouldn't actually admit that. She said that according to the standards, you have to be completely bedridden for us to say anything. So the whole thing is, I fought them for 1 year and a month to get an appointment, and they wouldn't take me, or they kept saying, yeah, we got your appointment coming, and I never got the appointment, and the whole time my blood sugar is going through the roof. So I went to I actually ran out of my medication. Prescription ran out. They said they would send me another year's worth of prescriptions for my diabetes supplies, and they never came. And my sugar went up, 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 and it was almost at 300. And 300, if anybody out there has diabetes, you know that when your sugar gets to 300, it was like 295 or something. That's dangerous. That's where you have, if it stays like that for too long, you go blind. You go into renal failure, and so this was serious. And I don't understand diabetes, or I didn't understand diabetes. I still don't, but I understand a little bit better. But I fought with them. Every day I'm calling them saying, I have to get in there. My blood sugar's almost 300. When can I get my appointment? Oh, well, we're going to have you in on such and such a day. So the day came, and I called them, and they said I had no appointment. So what I did was I loaded up in the car and I drove to the emergency room. Well, I had gone 2 days with no food, no drinks, nothing, because my blood sugar was so high. And finally, after 2 days of not eating, I got my blood sugar down to, I think, 155, which is still too high. So I checked into the emergency room and they said, "Why are you here?" I said, "Because my blood sugar is too high." They said, "What's your blood sugar?" I'm like, 155. See, 155 is not that high. And so it made me look stupid. But they already knew how to handle us because it's the VA. They got tens of thousands of veterans around the country that can't get into the VA unless they go to the emergency room. So they knew the drill. They just sent me over to my own doctor, which is all I wanted to start with, which I don't have a doctor, so uh-oh, what happened?
Nothing happened. No, no,
Oh,
no.
okay. Hey, look, I got a guy on here. I'm on now. What are you talking about? Guy just sent me a message on Skype saying, "Are you gonna go
Oh,
on? Are you gonna go online tonight?"
well, hey, everybody's joking about maybe you should have gone to a veterinarian instead of the instead of the VA. Maybe
Yeah,
VA
well,
stands for
okay.
veterinarian.
Oh yeah, I'm a vet. I'm a vet. I'm gonna go see a vet. But anyways, they finally got me in there. I talked to the lady who was kind of real. Wait a second. Let me just write this guy right now. I'm on now. What's wrong with you? I'm not going to. So anyway, I get in there and actually had a really cool doctor. You know, here's something that I've learned over the years from having going to the VA is that I'm not going to say the VA system is worse than the regular medical system because my mom's at that age where she's in the hospital quite a bit. She has incredible insurance. She can go anywhere she wants. Everything's paid for. You know, there's like no deductibles, and I really don't like her health care. I think that they give her a runaround. It's still the same kind of junk that I go through, and when it's over with, they offer her all kinds of things that she doesn't need simply because she has insurance. So at this point, you know, she's regularly given opportunities to get elective surgeries that I don't think she needs, and she's fallen into the trap of going for that way too many times. But the VA does have a reputation, and I can confirm a little bit of that. It's like every doctor I've had has had a really, really poor command of the English language, one, or they're really, really way over the hill. And it's like I have a lot of respect for the elderly, but I've had doctors there that were in their 80s, and they have a really poor communication skills too because they're not as bright as they need to be making decisions about people's health. And you know, I could go through some samples of conversations I've had with VA doctors, and you'd be all laughing and rolling, but I'd rather not have a permanent record of how I feel about that because I don't want to get kicked out. It's the only thing I got at this point. But yeah, the doctor that I got, I went in and I told her what I was doing, and she was all for it. You know, usually you talk to a doctor, you say, "Well, I'm taking some cinnamon, I'm taking turmeric, and I'm taking alpha lipoic acid, I'm taking omega 3s," because that's all like health food, natural stuff. And most doctors will just jump down your throat. You know, you need to be on some real pharmaceuticals. But this woman was cool. And by law, like VA law, when every time you go in there, there's certain things that they have to say. It's like part of their little routine. And one of those things are, have you gotten your vaccinations or what is it, the flu vaccine? Have you gotten the flu vaccine? And I'm like, no. I'm not, you know, when I was young and stupid and walking around in a suit with short hair, I did that stuff. But I'm a grown up now. I don't do silly stuff. I'm not going to come in here and get a vaccine. And she goes, yes. And I don't think she's allowed to say that. She said, you don't know what they're putting in that junk. You don't need that in your body. So that's why
Well,
she's worked.
some people are saying that maybe maybe because doctors are practicing. So when a doctor goes in practice, they practice on you.
Yeah, well, you know, who are they going to, who else? You know, their patients, it's like, yeah, that's the only people you practice on is your patients. But anyways, yeah, you know, the thing is, I'm like, okay, this doctor, when I saw her, of course, she's on TV, she's in another part of the country, and she looked normal. I'm like, why in the world is she in the VA system? You know, she's not really elderly, she speaks English, she could have a practice anywhere. But you know, when you're a doctor and you don't believe in vaccines, that means that you've probably been kicked out of your regular practice. So that's why she's in the VA system, which is cool. I'm glad I got this doctor, but at the same time, it's a TV doctor, and if I go in there next month and ask for another appointment, I'm going to see another TV doctor, and there's really no reason to think they're going to put me on with the same one. She's just like filling in for the guy that's supposed to be my doctor. But in any case.
Well, hey, before you change subjects, let's change the subject for you. So I'm not sure if people want to hear all your medical ills, but
well,
one thing
I do need to get out there first is if you are diabetic and you understand numbers, my A1C has dropped significantly, along with all the things I'm doing on the side and along with changes in my diet and you know, the medicines that they give me. I am now considered as pre-diabetic. I'm no longer even considered diabetic according to my A1C. But it's one of those things, you know, if you think you're cured of diabetes, have a slice of pecan pie and see just how cured you are. Because, you know, I could have a stroke or something if I did that. Plus, if I stopped taking the prescription medications, my sugar would go through the roof. But my A1C right now is 5.2 for anybody that keeps up with that. And today I checked my 30-day average on my glucometer, and it was less than 140, which is ridiculous for me because my average has always been way up there. So I'm in good shape. I'm in good shape.
And by your medication, do you mean your alcohol?
Well, you know, that's one of the things is my sugar went up and scared the tar out of me, and I didn't know why it was. But over the last couple of years, I've been cutting back on alcohol just because, you know, you're old and you think, well, maybe I shouldn't even be doing this, and you don't even want it most of the time. And so I go to sleep every night, and I'm waking up with my blood sugar over 200. That's dangerous. And I didn't know why. Well, it's because when you're drinking alcohol, and usually that's when I would drink in the evening. I would come home, I'd have a glass or two of wine or something, or some vodka and some kind of juice. And that little bit of alcohol, well, that's engaging your liver. So your liver's working on getting the alcohol out of your body during the night. And what your liver normally does, if you're eating healthy and not drinking alcohols, is producing sugar. Because when you're sleeping, your body isn't taking in the sugars that you would be while you're awake. And like the doctor told me, is that your liver has to produce sugar at night, because if it didn't, you could die. And so my liver is working so well that it's jacking my sugar way up over while I'm sleeping. You know, and I have a problem is that I don't sleep at night. I sleep like 4 or 5 hours at night, but I take 2 or 3 naps a day, and some of those are 1-hour naps. When I'm taking those 1-hour naps, I wake up really sick, and there's nothing I can do about it. I can be, in fact, if we're doing this podcast or whatever, this live stream, and I just fall asleep, just know that's just my life. You know, I fall asleep when I'm sitting down. I've been on the phone with people and fell asleep on the phone, so I don't choose when I get to sleep, and if I fall asleep during the day, my liver doesn't kick in, and when I wake up, I'm usually really sick. I got up like 3 days ago, my sugar was at 71, I was soaking wet with sweat, I was shaking really bad, I was kind of confused, and so I came in and took my sugar. It was 71. I thought, I may have overreacted. I made myself a banana shake, and my sugar went from 71 to 271, so it went up 200 points like that. Okay, now everybody knows that I have some arthritis. My hands do work. I can't do the things that I need to do sometimes. I can't put any pressure on them. But I have some arthritis. I've got diabetes, but I'm good. I'm good to go.
If we want to keep you active and moving around, maybe we can do a tour of your house. One of the first questions is, what the heck is that thing hanging up on the wall there?
This thing here is a basket for drying vegetables or fruits, and there's some kind of what do you call it? Import place around the corner from here that they send 18-wheeler boxes, containers overseas to the Philippines and Vietnam or whatever, and they buy tons of this stuff and bring it back. And I think I only paid like $19 for that. You can put peppers or tomatoes on that and set it on the roof of your car, and that evening you can put those things in a Tupperware if you want, because it'll dry them out. You know, just the sun and a little bit of wind to dry out anything you put on there. You know, as long as it's a dry day, you don't want a bunch of flies laying eggs in it or something like that. But here's the SNC headquarters. There's my computer set up. A little bit of dust on my laptop. There's my light. I had my light on, and Al Toledo said I look good without it, so we turned it off because I didn't want to waste my electric. And plus, it puts a lot of glare right in my eyes that I can't hardly see. There's my wine rack. There's my foot, my dog. Hey, Boo Boo.
What about your favorite chicken? Is he around?
You know what? It's time, but I think my wife, she kind of watches that. She knows I'm on the computer doing a live TV show, so she probably put him out. Because my chicken, every evening about this time, he'll come in here. There's my head. There's my forehead. It's way back there under my hair now. It used to just be over my eyes.
Some people were saying that round thing on the wall might be for tobacco. Is there like a traditional use for tobacco with that or something?
In this, not around here. Where I live, they have a little north here, people that grow tobacco, and they have barns where they hang. It's just for drying tobacco, and there's racks that are built. It's like a chicken roost all over the barn, and they'll hang that tobacco up to dry in the barns because it takes a long time. Tobacco's really, it's like rubbery or tarry. It's gooey and sticky, and it doesn't dry out in a day. You know, I don't know how long. I don't know anything about drying tobacco, but it hangs there for a while. You know, I think they even light a fire in there to keep insects and stuff off of it. You know, not to heat the tobacco, not to add a smoky flavor to the tobacco, just to keep it. But I don't know. I don't know anything about how they do tobacco. This is all that over there. That's Chinese, Asian, Vietnamese, that kind of stuff. And the reason I even got that, my friend Judy is from Taiwan, and she dries tons of stuff like that. She goes down to the farmer's market and sells vegetables, and when they get to where they're about ready to go bad, she just slices them real thin, throws them on a basket, and dries them. And then eventually they end up at my house because she's got three refrigerators and freezers, and once they're all full, she starts going through the stuff that's the oldest and giving it to me. It's a good thing. It's good. Win-win.
Next question is from South Georgia Hydroponics. They want to know, how are you feeling so far with the live streaming? I guess maybe some technical difficulties, but
hey, you know what?
Other than that, is it pretty good?
This is a lot better than the other day. I don't know if I could do this by myself. You know, I actually was digging around for somebody to help me with this. I did not want to ask Al Toledo to help me with can they hear when you talk? Can they hear you on the stream?
I haven't checked. Let me see.
Somebody will say something. If y'all can hear Al Toledo, let us know, because he helps me every week with the podcast, and then he's always the guy that's telling me.
Yeah, they're hearing it.
Oh, good. So, anyways, this is Al Toledo. If you've never gone to the podcast, he's the guy that runs all that. And I didn't really want to ask him to do this because this is, you know, extra work for somebody that's working for free already. So I was calling around trying to get other people to do this with me. I don't know if I could do the live stream by myself because I'm not good at reading stuff and responding to it. I get lost, and you know, if you know me in person, you would know that. But yeah,
we're good. Right now, here's good.
Yeah.
So what do you think so far about the idea? Is it too advanced, too 21st century?
No, I think right now I'm having fun with it, but I can see where it could get boring. You know, if we just see what the results are and see if I want to keep doing this. Because in my head, see, I've done this before, and it was a wonderful experience because back in the day, you could go to YouTube and they had a button you press, say upload, and it'll say, okay, you want to upload from a camera or upload from a file. And if you chose camera, it would give you the option of uploading with, I don't remember, like 6 other people or 8 other people, and you could watch. And I've got a video up there like that. That YouTube had some kind of program built into their system where you could go on with 4 or 5 people and you could see the people you were interacting with. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
That's Google Hangouts, I think you're talking about. But yeah, maybe what is some of the software you're using right now? Do you have your equipment? I guess you already gave us the pan around, but yeah, they kind of you're curious what you're using. Maybe tell them about your throat mic or show them that.
I'm not using that now because we were getting so much feedback, or you know, what do you call that? I guess it's feedback. And losing. I hate wearing these headphones too because I just had my hair done, you know. But
Vanity. Okay, there we go. Vanity. You know,
what that means is, you
what's that
know,
one? That's one of the seven deadly sins, right? Or
they're all.
maybe you can hit all seven before the episode is over.
Hey, look, I got them covered this morning since just in the first 2 hours of being awake. So it ain't
You
like,
get those out of the way early, right?
yeah, there's no reason to put off for tomorrow what you can get done today. Yeah, you know, all the sins, the seven deadly sins are not mentioned in the Bible as sins as such, but they are sins to civilization. It's like uh, poor credit score, lack of competition. What are some of
Wait a
those?
second. Wait a second. Are you saying that the official seven deadly sins the Catholic Church uses are nowhere in the Bible?
They kind of are in English, but if you go back in the Greek and Hebrew, they're not. It's like lust. It's like humans are supposed to have lust for one another. It's like the way we're designed. But if you look at how that word is translated or what it's translated from, it's like, well, in Galatians, here's a clue for it. If you go to Galatians, it talks about the difference between those who are minding the flesh and those who are filled with the Spirit. See, this in Galatians chapter 5, that's where we get that verse about love, joy, peace, long suffering, mildness, goodness, self-control, and against these there is nothing wrong. But then it goes into the sins of the flesh, and of course, every church I've ever been to, the sins of the flesh are sexual sins. But if you actually read it, the sins of the flesh are concerning yourself with just yourself, your flesh. So you go out and you concern yourself with making more money for you, or you go out looking for more social status for you. You go out looking for better conditions for you, more comfort for you. That's minding the flesh. It's nothing to do with sex. This is about worrying about your own needs above everybody else's needs. If you go back and look at those others, the ones of the Holy Spirit or the Spirit, then it's always love, joy, peace, long suffering, mildness. Think about it. Every one of those is about how we interact with our surroundings, with other people, other animals, plants, the spirit that fills every living thing. And so, you know, that I hope that clears that up.
Yeah, no, that was a good answer. And next question is Grandma Patty's looking to get the number one advice for what we need to know how to survive in the world.
She already sent me that, and I responded too. I said, or no, how to survive in the world, or how to survive. What I think the question
No,
was.
most important thing is what she wants to know now. Number one, she wants to cut to the chase.
Okay, well, she said in her question, how do you survive? I said, one, do not die. Two, do not engage activities that increase your chances of dying. And three, do things that are known to extend life, like getting plenty of rest, eating healthy foods, you know, wear a seatbelt, don't drink and drive, that kind of stuff. Now, as far as being on a more serious level, having to do with my channel, this is something I would tell everybody is just mind your own business and keep a low profile. That's it. That's the whole thing. Because, you know, these people, I was watching video today, and it was people out there trying to fix the government or fix the economy, fix religion, and they're walking around with protest signs and demanding their rights and talking about freedom of speech and talking about their guaranteed constitutional rights, and a car come through and whoop, smushed them all up, you know. So there you go. That's what you get when you're trying to demand your rights. It's going back to that minding the flesh. You're minding the flesh. You're going to be out there trying to get what's best for you, and sometimes that's what it takes if you want what's best for you. But sometimes it's best is just to accept what you got. Like when Paul was sick, asked to be healed, he was told, sustenance and covering is enough for you, or food and shelter is enough for you. Don't ask for anything else. If you've got your basic needs taken care of, be content. Because this is just a short time. We're only here for a short time. We only have to deal with this wicked system for a short time. just make do with what you got. Don't go demanding more. It's like, and you're not going to get anything. If you're a good person, like I said earlier with my VA thing, I'm a decent human being, and I'm not a team player. I'm not trying to join. I don't think that my side of the imaginary line deserves more resources than the folks that live on the other side of Satan's imaginary line, and people know that. I go into the VA, I'm a nothing. But you go in there, like if you go into the VA, if you've ever been at the VA hospital, even if you're not a veteran, you should just go down there. They're not going to tell you to leave. But it's like everybody in there is wearing some kind of G.I. Joe costume. You know, they've got their jacket on that they bought when they were over in Nam, and it's, you know, got all the names of all of the combat they were in or all the cities they visited, or they'll have their ship's hat cap on. You know, I actually want to talk to these guys when I'm in there and I see a guy walk by and it says USS whatever, Canisteo or something, a ship that I'm familiar with, that I've actually interacted with. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go talk to this guy. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to a guy wearing a soldier costume. It's just, it always seems as if the conversation really goes downhill quick when I'm talking to veterans. Because when you're in the Navy and you're talking to the other guys that are bunking next to you or whatever, everybody's like, hey, man, this is really wrong. You know, what our government is doing is wrong. And, you know, our purpose out here is not what we were told. But when they get out, you know, after you've done your time and you get out of the service and you're turning into an old man and you look at everything you've done in your life and everybody's patting you on the back for your military service and no one's patting you on your back for all them years that you were stocking groceries at the Winn-Dixie. You know, then suddenly you realize the best thing you've ever done in your life is the military. And that's when you start wearing all that stuff, you know, all your medals and ribbons. And I don't like that. It makes me uncomfortable to be in that kind of crowd. But hey, you know what? I'm diabetic. It's not like I can just stop taking my meds and never go see a doctor.
Hey, the next question, the couple questions are about permaculture. Shannon's wondering about your lemon trees. You haven't done any permaculture videos or updates recently.
Hey, you know, there's a reason for that. Every year I say, okay, this is the last year. I can't do this anymore because I'm just getting too old, too crippled, too good looking, all of that kind of stuff. And so, every year I do it. I still somehow get out there and I maintain a large part of what's going on out here. But this year I got out there and I can work like 15 minutes before I have to go in the house and lay down. And then I'm out there an hour later and I work for 15 minutes. I got to go lay down. And so I'm not getting as much done as quickly. And then all of a sudden it's monsoon season. And, you know, immediately what happens is you get rain, and then the next day you have mosquitoes. Well, over 2 or 3 days it dries up, ready to go pull your mower out there and get to work again. Rain, mosquitoes. And so right now my beautiful permaculture forest is up to here in stickers. And it just isn't worth filming. I don't like filming it when it looks like that. You know, I think on Rachel's channel, she went out and she actually took some shots of me, video of me out there in my little area that I did get done before the rain came in. But, you know, it was just like immediately the next day after we shot the footage, it was raining again. And so the rest of the forest looks terrible, even around my lemon. She's asking about lemon trees because she actually drove me 2 lemon trees down here from her home. And I put them in the ground and they're looking beautiful, but there ain't going to be no fruit on them things for a while. We got some flowers this year. But, you know, I mean, when trees are young, they'll make flowers, but you don't normally get fruit. And those were grown from seed. If you grow a tree from a seed, it takes 10 years before you start getting actual enough fruit to be proud of it. And I think she had those things in her house for 5 years before she brought them here. But you can take a cutting sometime, you know, cut a limb off of a 10-year-old tree, and that thing will make fruit the next year. It's just that when its root system is that small, like you got a 10-year-old stick, but it's got a year's worth of roots, then it can't support the fruit. So you'll get a big piece of fruit, you can play with it, you can take a picture of it, you can eat it, but you know, am I rambling?
Yeah, no, you're good. Next question comes from the Learning Homesteaders. He's asking you about any volunteer fig trees in a separate container. I don't know. I guess volunteer means that you didn't intend to put it where you want?
Hey, look, let me tell you something. I've got those and I've had those, but they're not really. It's not like an issue now because what happens with figs, and you can. Figs are just like magic trees. They take care of themselves. You can put a fig tree in the middle of the forest and go back 20 years later, and there's a forest of fig trees. But I mean, if conditions are right. But it's one of those trees, and there's not too many of them. And I'm probably about to do a video about a scriptural video about what the difference between taking cuttings and taking shoots and planting from seed. With fig trees, you can cut a fig tree down and put it in a grinder and blow it out all over the ground, and it'll grow. You know, all the little pieces will turn into more fig trees. It doesn't take much work. It's like an azalea or a blueberry. Or, well, blueberries, you kind of got to get the roots. You can't really just chop them up and throw them. It's hard to get a shoot or a cutting to start. But like azaleas, you can take a brick, take a branch. Let me see, where's my camera? Here's my camera. Okay. Look right at you that way, make eye contact. You know I love you and everything. But you can take a brick, like you've got a limb sticking up off of the side of a azalea. You can put that limb on the ground and put a brick on it, and it'll grow out the other side of the brick, but while it's doing that, every place it's touching the ground, it'll put roots. So then after not very long, 9 months, you take a shovel and you cut the root, you cut that limb off of the mother plant. Just leave it there long enough to get happy again, and you can transfer it into a pot. And another thing I've got going on right now in my fig trees, you can take an old soda bottle or a whiskey bottle, and you can slice it down the side and put the soda bottle over. Yeah, y'all can see that. Over the limb, so the limb is sticking through it, and put dirt in that soda bottle, and you'll have that thing up in the air with roots growing. And you can see it. Soda bottle's clear. You can see roots all around the inside of the soda bottle. Take some loppers, cut that thing off, and put it in the ground. And I've done that so many times. I don't want to lie, I probably got 50 fig trees here. And I don't think I may have bought 5 or 6 of them. All the rest of them are cuttings or that's called air propagation when you do that, by the way. And I have put bricks on them before and got them start off with bricks.
Hey, Maria's Vegetable Gardening wants to know a little bit about your name, so how you got to Henry Thoreau. So I don't know, maybe not tell her the truth because it's kind of a short story. So maybe make up something.
Okay. Well, once in another life. No, I'll tell you what. I knew that. I'm not really that familiar. I've never been that familiar with Henry David Thoreau's work. And so I did know that I wanted my channel to be about food and shelter. So that, that's the name. Sustenance and Covering is just a fancy way of saying food and shelter. And the reason I picked sustenance and covering is because there is a scripture in the King James Bible that I just quoted where Paul is told you should be happy with food and shelter. And in the Jehovah's Witness Bible, it's you should be happy with sustenance and covering. And initially, I perceived the Jehovah's Witnesses as somewhat more active in seeking truth than any other religion. And I've got enough experience with religions that I could see. I thought that they were trying, but here I am. I am sustenance and covering. I'm producing videos. A lot of people of all different religions know who I am and what I'm doing, and yet none of them are showing any propensity for latching onto this. It seems like everybody that comes to my channel is just a good person that believes in God and they want to do what's right, but they aren't involved in a religion because it's hard to break free from a religion no matter what it is. But in the Jehovah's Witness Bible it said sustenance and covering. I thought that would be better than the King James Version. And see, I wasn't really even at the time knowing that there was that difference. I was aware that was out there. I didn't know that every single Bible out there said it, and that the Jehovah's Witness Bible was the only one that said sustenance and covering. So if I had it to do over again, I'd probably go back and call my channel Food and Shelter. As far as the name Henry Thoreau is, while this process was going on, and I was trying to determine, what kind of name I was going to have on my channel, I had just gotten the book Walden. If anybody knows what Walden is, it's the only book that Henry Thoreau ever wrote that was worth anything, as far as I'm concerned. I've read a lot of his work since then, and they kind of fall flat. They're not bad, but they're not Walden. Walden's like one of the great classics of all time. And so I said, well, this guy writes about food and shelter. That's basically what he was about. Go out in the woods. And he went out there with nothing. He didn't even bring an axe with him. He had to go borrow a neighbor's axe to cut down trees to build a cabin, and he lived in that cabin for a while. Well, I spelt it a little bit differently so that when people went looking for me, they wouldn't have to go through thousands of pages of Henry Thoreau's web pages to get to my web page. So
Don Jones is asking about how you came about your knowledge about the Bible and looking for truth. I mean, how did that come about?
it's been an obsession since I was a child. I'll just say that I can't. I absolutely, when I was like a little bitty kid, I got a hold of the Bible, and it just absolutely amazed me that I could actually hold the Word of God. I didn't know back then that there were thousands of words of God, and that it was just a chance that this was the real Word of God, because they've got the Quran, the Book of Mormon, the Tai Te Ching, what are some of the other books? The Bhagavad Gita. So there's a bunch of stuff out there, and that just being by pure coincidence born into a Christian nation or the Western world. That's the book that I latched onto. But when I read the very first time I ever actually read the words of Jesus in real modern English, like humans speak, it just blew my mind, because I was maybe 12 years old. I was an altar boy in the Catholic Church. I got this thing. It was just the Book of John and the Good News version, and I couldn't stop reading it. And I knew that when I went to school, every kid in school was about violence and competition, and I went to a Catholic school, and I'm reading the Bible about Jesus, talking about how much he hates violence and competition. And so there was something really fishy about that story, that every Christian church on earth swore allegiance to this book about love and non-competition, and yet that was what their lives were based on. And that's one of the things that seems to set the Bible apart as unique, is that the people who swear their allegiance to it live exactly the opposite to it. But in a lot of countries where they have other books, the people do basically base their lives on whatever their ancient texts are. So that's just struck me. It's like, what an odd thing that this book would teach exactly the opposite of what its adherents say they believe.
Okay, let's see. Next is All Things Good is asking a permaculture question about tongue nut oil trees. Are they good for anything? Because apparently he has a bunch of them and he's looking for something to do with them.
I planted a few of them out here, and I don't know. They're good for furniture polish, and it is an oil. The stuff that comes out of them is oil. If you put it on a piece of cloth and light it up, it'll burn. And I've always thought maybe, if you had a press like an apple press, because they aren't that much firmer than apple, I guess you could probably boil them and then squeeze them and get the oil out. But one time I was asking a man, I told a man I was growing some of them, and anybody that doesn't know what a tongue nut tree is, you need to look them up, because if they're in your area, like in your southeastern United States, I think, at one time people were growing them because they were making furniture oil out of them. And you can still go to Walmart, and if you see there's a stuff there, it's called Formby's, Formbys. Formby's oil, furniture polish. If you are furniture sealer or finish or whatever, you pick it up and look at it, it'll say on the back of it 100% pure tongue oil. Well, they were planting these things around here, and they had tongue presses. Like every major city around the southeastern United States had these tongue oil presses, and people were making money at it, and they're like a weed. If you see one of these trees, you look it up, look what it looks like. If you see one of these trees on the side of the road, you'll notice it. You'll easily identify it. They look like pears hanging on there, and the leaves are they look like fig leaves or something, or look a bit like big elm leaves. But the nuts, they're really like a pecan. That outside hole, the pear part, break off, and there's a nut in there about that big. And if you plant 100 of them, don't be surprised if you get 101 trees out of them, because they all grow But I told this man, I said, you know, I'm thinking that as much meat as you get on one of these things, there's got to be a way to make it edible. Because everything I'd ever heard about them is they're deadly poison. There's nothing you could do to make them edible. But I knew that squirrels would eat them and they wouldn't die. This old man was telling me that, and he's like 90 years old. He says when he was a kid, he got hired on to pick tongue nuts. And for years they were picking tongue nuts. And he swears by this story, and I can't just call somebody a liar because I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. But he said him and a bunch of them was out there picking tongue nuts off this tree, and it started to pour down raining. And so they all took off running, but one guy, and they said, come on. And he said, no, I'm going to keep picking. I ain't worried about a little bit of rain. Well, the next day, the guy showed up at work bald-headed. And he said that he swears that this guy was under them tongue nut trees for about an hour getting rained on, and the water was hitting him tongue nuts, and it was falling on his head. And the next day, all his hair fell out. I don't know if that's true or not. That's probably a lie, but you know, if everybody's looking for a good story, I got a bunch of them.
Okay, the next one is I'm afraid to ask you. Try not to spend your whole next 2 hours on it, but maybe just something about flat Earth debunking videos. Have you enjoyed them? What's up with that? You know?
Yeah, well, you know, the one I made. Here's a problem I had with it. While I'm making it, and I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I don't know why somebody would want to believe in this, because you know, if somebody tells me that a man went to the moon, then I don't know and don't care because I'm not there. I can't see the man in the moon. And if somebody shows me a picture of the man in the moon, well, I've seen Luke Skywalker on Naboo, you know. So it's not like I'm not hip to the fact that they can fake stuff. And so I don't want to get in an argument over whether or not a man went on the moon. I don't care. It's not an issue. But you can just kind of look at the stars and you can see a circular, you know, a spherical pattern. And it's not that hard to see. You know, you can go to Goodwill and get a book on astronomy for 49 cents if it's paperback, 99 cents if it's a hardback, and not that. But I mean, I've been in a ship and I've sailed around the world like, I don't know, a bunch of times from every direction. And, you know, there's just things that if we were on a flat Earth and you're a sailor, you would notice them. You know, if I'm in the southern hemisphere and I'm going all the way across from South America to Africa, which I've done, I would expect it to take longer than it would take for me to go from Norfolk, Virginia to Spain. And I've done both, and we were going full speed. I mean, you know the feel of the ship. When the ship is moving, you know, under full load, because you load up with, we were in a tanker fills up, you can actually hear like a musical note, and you know if you're full tank or low tank, what speed you're going. And we pretty much had a rule that you went the speed of the slowest ship, and we were always the slowest ship. So I think it took us like 10 days, 14 days maybe, to go from Virginia to Spain, to go from, and I think we actually left from Brazil to go over to Diego Garcia once, and it's like from the time we got into the same area overseas, it was still 10 days. You know, because when you're in the Navy and you're going somewhere, you're like counting the minutes because you don't like being, you know, just underway. You want to see whatever tourist attractions, or you want to get home, that kind of thing. And really, if you look at a flat Earth model and you're on a ship, it's going to take you a long time to go from Brazil to Diego Garcia, like, I don't know, a year. Because, you know, on a spherical Earth, the top of the Earth is the same size as the bottom of the Earth. But, yeah, I keep looking at myself on the computer screen instead of this camera. But anyway, if you're on a flat Earth, which is shaped like a plate, it's a long way from the bottom of the Earth around than it is up at the top. You know, I mean, does that make sense? But anyways, while I'm making the videos, I'm actually stopping myself to laugh, you know, or even especially when I make the videos and I'm trying to decide whether or not to post them. You know, it's so blatantly obvious that the stuff I'm teaching is just, it's not, you don't have to be a scientist to figure this stuff out. The one I'm making now, I wish that there was a way I could walk over to my whiteboard. You can see it. I actually went on there today with a different setup to talk to a friend. But I'm loving that whiteboard. It's like having a helper here, you know, because it's kind of hard to just stare at a camera and talk, but it's kind of like when I'm talking and drawing, I kind of get into it where I'm not so, you know, self-conscious about just talking to myself.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, we're running out of time, but maybe one more question from the Learning Homer Stutters. He wants to hear something about your chicken coop on the porch, see how it's doing, and maybe I'll add in that. Where's your favorite chicken tonight?
Hey,
Maybe
look.
next week you can bring it.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you know, maybe I should have. I even actually did think about that because when my wife was taking him outside, I was like, maybe you should just leave him in here because that would be cool to be sitting here talking and have chicken jump up. A lot of people don't have that experience of having a chicken wandering around in their house, and especially not jumping in their lap. But anyway, it is a wonderful, wonderful coop, and it was built by a man I love dearly. I won't mention his name because he's so humble. But anyway, yeah, I actually kind of dropped the ball on that. I was supposed to put a fence around it so that we could actually have the chickens in that pen, but also during the day opening it up so that they were free to wander around inside of a fenced-in yard. And I'm a free-range guy. I don't believe in putting things in pens, but I got a couple of chickens that are just very, very special. They're silkies. If you've ever seen them, they stand out like a sore thumb. They're white. They're fluffy. They don't have really good visual perception of things around them. And if a hawk could walk up to them and just grab them with his wing and because they don't run or anything. So I have to keep those silkies kind of under lock and key. I don't have to do that with the others. And I have had like really wild looking special chickens before, and they really do kind of deteriorate quickly when they're in a flock of well camouflaged birds. Something to keep in mind if you're ever going to get chickens is that as nice as all them fancy breeds are, you know, the ones that's got the feathers that cover their eyes and the ones that have big feathers on their feet, and you know, every time it rains, the ones with the feathers on their feet are going to get completely clogged up with mud and chicken poop, and the ones that's got feathers on their eye are never going to run away from a hawk. So, you know.
What about foxes? Do you have problems with foxes? Patty wants to know.
We've got foxes here, but foxes are nocturnal, and I've got my hen house is kind of like almost bulletproof. And our foxes, for whatever reason, they have all they need to eat or something. I don't know why people have so many problems with foxes. I've never ever, as far as I know, I've never lost a single chicken to a fox. But I've seen foxes in the daytime, and I've got a friend. You know, I was thinking if I got a fox in here, there's nothing I could do because they're fast as lightning, and you don't hear them coming, and you don't know where they're at. I got a friend over in Ireland that had a fox coming in and grabbing a chicken every day. And he was asking me what I could do, what he could do about it. I said, there ain't nothing you can do. You'll never, ever shoot that fox. Next day he called me and says, hey, I shot that fox. You know, he just happened to walk out and he said, there was a thing standing there and he had his gun. So, you know, it was a quick fix. But he never lost a chicken again after that. Well, I'm sure he has since then. But, I mean, that was the only problem he had ever encountered. And that's how he took care of it. And I'm guessing a fox over here ain't no different than one in Ireland. And I know we have foxes because one morning, you know, I sleep outdoors. I've been sleeping in a tent for about a year, and then now I'm sleeping on the porch because it's too much. I can't get out there in the tent. And, you know, the porch is right here. I can walk right from my living room and onto my porch. But I woke up one day, and I'm laying there, I'm like, just asleep, and open my eyes. And you know, my bed is just like facing that screen porch, and there was a fox just sitting there. And I couldn't, at first I'm like, that's not a real fox I'm seeing, right? And so I sat up, and when I did, that sucker took off. Well, there's a fence all the way around my yard there. That fox ran into that fence doing about 90 to nothing, and he bounced off. And so he got up and he went a little over to the right and he ran full speed again and he hit that fence, you know, nose first and bounced off. And he must have rammed into that metal fence 5 or 6 times before he finally found a hole next to the gate. So I know I got foxes because I've seen that guy. You know, I've seen dead foxes on the side of the road.
Okay, well, we're out of time now, but people are just wondering if you're going to try to make live streams on a regular basis now.
Hey, I love this. If you're willing to do it, and look, you know what? I've been talking to another guy that I think that I need to get him on our podcast, but I'd like to give him a chance on this too. So even if you don't want to do this no more, right now I'm happy with it, and you know I don't want you to feel like you're obligated, but at the same time, as long as there's somebody willing to do this with me, I will do it. If I end up having to do this by myself, I probably won't do it because I need somebody to moderate what's coming in and what because I get you talk.
Yeah, that's no problem. That's no problem. So, yeah, it seems like people enjoyed it, but yeah, we're out of time now. So you want to go ahead and take us out?
How?
The usual. You know the usual. Actually,
Hello?
why don't you come up with something creative like you did that one time?
Oh, wow, that was such a cool line when I got done saying it. I meant to write it down, but I didn't. And you probably do have it wrote down. But let's just go ahead.
Well, you have to say something profound. So this is the first ever live stream, so make it a good exit. How about that? Don't flop it.
We'll just at least do the typical exit. Hello and welcome to another video.
No, it's not welcome.
Oh, what is the second one? As always, if you do not wish to survive, don't listen to us.
Okay, good. That's a wrap.
Wait, I got to turn this off somehow. Can you walk me through that again?
Well, you had it. You went up to the live stream button.
Oh, yeah. File and close. Bye-bye. Love y'all.